The podcast is my pulpit, and I am ready to preach the raw truth. Join me as I discuss real life, love, and teach you all the lessons I've learned along the way. Welcome to Lakita's Room. I am your host, Lakita Brewington. Hello, and welcome back to Lakita's Room. Listen, you all, I am super excited because I have made it to the final episode of the first season of Lakita's Room. And I'm excited about that because, for one, I didn't think I could do it. And number two, I'm glad to see that I have made progress. When I first started this platform, I did it because I wanted to create a safe space, a safe virtual space, if you will, for people who are like me, for people you don't always feel like you fit in, or you have questions about things that may not necessarily be considered church etiquette, if you will. I just wanted to have a place where we could talk about life and the things that we are facing together. And I believe that I have done that, and I'm super excited about it. So thank you all, those of you who have rocked with me from the first episode, even if you only caught a half of an episode. Thank you, because there are plenty other platforms that you could be tuning into. So I don't take it for granted that you have taken the opportunity to stop by Lakita's Room. So if you do not mind, if you would take a moment to share this broadcast with someone that you may know, take an opportunity to share it on the social media platforms that I'm on. And if you aren't following me on my social media platforms, listen, I need you to go ahead and check out Lakita's Room. I would love to have you over there in my spaces, okay? So today's final topic of season 1 is entitled, what am I going to call this? I want to call this episode When It Hurts. And I want to talk about forgiveness, because that's a lot of things. That's a challenge that I feel like a lot of us have faced, or that's something that a lot of us are still facing right now. All of us have gone through things where we've been hurt by others, right? And before I even continue, I want to say that just hear my heart. I don't want you to feel like I'm attacking anyone, because I'm not. But I do believe that this is a sensitive subject, and I want to make sure that I move carefully, okay? As I've even thought about my own experiences, there have been so many things that I've gone through, from a child, even to being good and grown. And I'm sure that's many of you too. You have gone through some stuff that has shaken you, some stuff that's rocked you, some stuff that's rattled you, some stuff that wanted to make you say, forget everything and everybody, okay? And if that's not you, I'll hang out over here by myself. But I do know I'm not alone. I know I'm not the only one that has gone through some things in life, because as long as you keep living, as my grandpa used to say, keep living, you are going to go through some things. You are not you're not going to be excluded, okay? It's just going to happen. It's part of life, right? So as I thought about all of the things I've gone through, it's still, I will say, sometimes I've still faced challenges where I'm wondering how I'm going to get through those situations, right? And as I think about what I've gone through in my life, all of the people that have hurt me, all of the situations that really wanted me to throw in the towel. And I'll say this too, some of the situations that made me want to take the towel and wring the other person's neck, okay, with those situations that I've gone through, right? There have been some times where I really wanted to take matters into my own hands. And just even more recently, this year alone, I've had to have difficult conversations, conversations that I knew I should have had them much sooner than I had them. But honestly, I didn't want to have those conversations. I didn't. And it felt safer to just be done completely. Not saying that I hated the people who offended me, but I was just at a point where I was tired of being hurt. And it hurt because of the people that it came from. I think that hurt more than the actual offense. Sometimes when you're going through things, you can't believe who's bringing that offense to you. But I will say we have to learn how to look past people, right? Anybody's going to make mistakes, okay? But that was my issue. I couldn't get past who did it to me because of the space that they held in my life. That's what hurt me. That's what hurt the most. I'll say that. But even more recent than that, this past Sunday, it's been a week, I was at church, and a couple of days prior, I had been praying and talking to God about some things that were on my heart. Things that I didn't even think God was listening to, or I didn't think they were important enough for him to respond. But I still wanted to cast that on God. I wanted to give that to him because that's something that I was holding in my heart. So I began to talk to God about those things and just tell him how I felt. So right after that, the morning after, I received a phone call, and the person on the other end confirmed some things that I had talked to God about. And the day after that, so I got a phone call on Saturday, and then I got a word from someone at church the following Sunday. And that person told me, and y'all, it really just hit home for me. They said, you need to forgive. And I'm like, God, but I have forgiven, you know? And they continued to talk to me, and they said, you keep picking it back up. And then the person continued to say, I need you to forgive just as God has forgiven you. And when I tell y'all, that hit home for me, because I'll say I have forgiven and forgiven and forgiven and forgiven and forgiven. But as time passes and as time progresses, if you allow yourself to sit still long enough, sometimes when you get idle and when you get still, sometimes those offenses, they honestly will come back in your mind sometimes, or it may be something or someone that could trigger that offense again. And I can be honest enough to say that those are some of the things that have happened to me. I will let it go for the most part. I'm human. I let it go. But then something could happen, and it'd be just a little small piece that I will pick back up again and hold on to. But the Father was even concerned about that little piece that I was holding on to. And that let me know that God is concerned. And just like God is concerned about me, he's concerned about that little bit that you keep holding on to. So I want to ask you today, who hurt you? Okay, and now you can't respond back to me because we're in a virtual place, but this is a time and a moment for you to do a self-reflection, okay? And I want you to think about this. Is what happened to you, are those people who caused the offenses in your life, are they worth you continuing to put your life on hold? Are they worth you continuing to hold a grudge? And I want to say this. Your feelings about the situation are very valid. I want to say that because a lot of times, and I can speak for just the church culture because I've been in it all of my life, a lot of times we're told to dance over things, dance until it gets better, just get over it, just let it go. Girl, I wouldn't worry about that. No, you need to worry about how you're feeling because it's valid. Okay, so start there. Who hurt you? And yes, it is valid, but you can't heal until you first acknowledge that there's something in there that's hurting you, that there's something that's going on. And I want you to know that those feelings are real and you have a right to feel the way you feel, but you don't have a right to keep holding on to that if you want the Father to forgive you. Okay, and that's what really stuck out to me in Matthew when Jesus is going through the Lord's Prayer and he's saying, and forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us, or forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So that means that there's a responsibility that you have in the matter. If you want to be forgiven, you have to forgive. Okay, it's not a one-way street here. You have to forgive and release just as God is forgiving and releasing you. Now, I'm not a perfect Patty by any means. I have done so many things, honestly, that if anyone were to run the billboard back or just a timeline of the things that I've done, I wouldn't be able to sit up here and talk to you today. Okay? Yeah, that's how much I've done that I'm not proud about. But when I thought about all of those things, when I was standing in church during that moment, I was like, oh my God, there's so many things that I've done. And Father, you have chosen to release me from those things. So that's what I need to do. And in that moment, I just began to pray and thank God for acknowledging that he heard me. And then I had to pray and thank God that he chastised me in that moment. If you belong to God and you have a relationship with him, there are going to come times where he's going to check you on your stuff, right? And it doesn't mean that you just have to just be besties with everyone or every situation. You don't have to just jump over it and act like it didn't happen. But I want to encourage you today to just really, you got to let it go. It doesn't mean that you're going to forget about it, but it does mean that you have to make a decision. Am I going to remain stuck in this moment? When you replay those things that are happening, when you replay those offenses, y'all, it keeps you stuck and it takes you right back to that moment. And I can say this like real sure. A lot of times when people offend us, most of the time, that person has gone on about their business. They've gone on about their life. And even if they know that they hurt you, sometimes they're not going to be brave enough to come to you and have a conversation. So in that regard, you may have to have a conversation with them. Okay. And then you have other circumstances where that person may be dead and gone. Right. And what are you going to do? They're in the grave. They're not thinking in the grave. They're gone, but you're still holding on to that offense. So what do? How do you get past that? Sometimes you may have to write a letter and flush it down the toilet, burn it or tear it up, whatever you need to do to get that off of your heart. But sometimes those things paralyze us. And then you wonder why you're sick. You're wondering why your heart is racing all the time. You're wondering why you have all of these aches and pains. I tell you all, this has been about a year and a half, almost 2 years now. I got so mad about a situation and I had every right to be upset about it. But I noticed I began breaking out in hives, right? I mean, just whips all over my body. And I knew that that was a response to the stress and the trauma that I was carrying. My body was letting me know, hey, something is going on. And it was really bad. I honestly had to go to the doctor, get a steroid because I had broke out that bad. But I want to say, in that moment, I knew that I had to make a decision. So yes, I went to the doctor. Yes, they gave me some steroids, medications to help calm the flare up that I was having. But I also knew that was spiritual. I knew that I had to deal with that situation because it was paralyzing me. And there are plenty of times as I think about just childhood hurts, the divorce I've gone through. And as you think about things that you have faced, you can either keep replaying those things and living in the moment, or you can decide, you know what? Yes, it hurt me. Yes, I had every right to be upset about it, but I do not want to remain stuck. I had to make a decision on Sunday, just like I made times past when I've been offended, to do the work. And it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy letting it go, but I'm telling you, you have to. You have to. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, I'll never forgive them. Okay. All right. That's your right. But you're also in that moment acknowledging that I don't want to be forgiven. And I knew that I didn't want to end up in that space because I know that there are going to be some other times where I may be an offense to someone, or I may do something that warrants forgiveness. And I don't want my father to ever say, I can't forgive you, Lakita, because you didn't forgive this person. You didn't let this go. You didn't let that go. Right? But I'm telling you, there is something on the other side of that forgiveness, right? There's healing on the other side of it. There's peace on the other side of it. And even though you may not know what your next steps may be regarding your life, God does. And he can't release details to you. He can't release those plans that he has for you until you begin to unpack some of that baggage that you're carrying. Yes, it hurts. I keep saying that because I don't want to skip over the fact that you've been hurt or the fact that I have been hurt. But what I want you to do today is really just make a decision. Are you going to keep carrying all of this stuff, or are you going to let it go so you can move on? I don't need to know all the details, but God does, because he saw what happened to you. He heard what was said to you, right? But I'm going to tell you all something that really helped me get through a lot of the offenses that I've had, especially with my divorce. That was one of the most devastating things, right? But I'll say this. I had to learn how to see my ex-husband and other people that have offended me. I had to learn how to see them the way that God does. God doesn't see those people as a failure, or as what we may have called them. And I've called some of those people who've offended me a whole lot of things. Okay, that's under the blood now. Praise our God. But God, he doesn't see those people the way that we do, right? And again, that's not excusing all of the stuff that's happened, but it did give me peace to move on, right? So start there. Start to unload that stuff, and be honest. Be very honest with God first about how you're feeling. He already knows, yes, but he wants you to bring it to the table too, and to be honest about where you are. And as you're doing that, you need to be careful who you are releasing to. There's some people that you may need to confide in, and let me continue with that. Sometimes you may need to seek other counsel. Seek the counsel of your pastor, of your leaders, of your mentors, and then seek the counsel of a therapist. That's okay. That is something that helped me tremendously, because I needed to unload. And once I sat down with a person who didn't know me, I honestly, yes, they were strangers, but I felt safe, because they weren't looking at all of the things that I've done. They weren't looking at the relationships that I have with all of these people and all of the extra stuff that I brought into that room, right? They were able to, they didn't take sides, because they didn't know these people that I was telling them about, but they were able to listen objectively, right? They didn't have a dog in the fight. Their main thing was making sure that I got what I needed, to make sure that I became whole, and to make sure that they were able to equip me with the tools that I needed to walk in forgiveness, okay? And for some of you, you may need that. And I've said this a few episodes back, but sometimes you may need to get that counseling. And if you don't have insurance, seek the counsel that may be at your church. For those of you who you're working a full-time job, they have employment, just services, counseling services that they may be able to offer to you. Start there. Sometimes you can get free sessions. You can get discounted sessions. If you don't feel comfortable going to sit in an office to talk to someone, you may can do a televisit, right? But the main thing is, don't keep holding on to this stuff. It's not helping you. And it's honestly hurting you more than it's hurting that person. And I could never understand why people used to say, well, forgiveness is for you. I didn't understand it for a long time. But now that I'm continuing to walk through my processes, I understand more clearly that it is for us, because we are the ones who are holding it. And when you hold it, it makes you sick, physically, emotionally, spiritually, because you won't let it go. That chest tightening, that anxiety that you're feeling, that's because you're not choosing to let it go. And that person, most likely, they've gone on about their business. And even, I'll say this, even if the people that have hurt you, if they never acknowledge it, I want you to take comfort in knowing that God saw it. He saw it. And vengeance belongs to the Lord, not us. Okay? So I don't want you thinking that that person has necessarily gotten a free pass. No. Vengeance belongs to God, though, because when we take those matters in our hands and we want to get those people back or make them suffer, okay, we end up doing far more damage. We do, okay? And for some people, that could mean that you're going to be spending a little time behind those bars if you take it too far, okay? So I really want you to just sit with that today. I have been very transparent this season because I've been through a lot, okay? I don't have the time to tell you all that I've been through, but just know that as I have talked throughout this season, I want it to be very candid and very honest. A lot of times, I haven't had a script. I've been going off of things that God has given me, things that I have faced, and just things that God wanted me to release to you all. And it just happens to be very transparent. It's just real life. And I have found that as we discuss our issues and our burdens, as we share those with other people, you'll come to discover that you have more in common with people than what you realized. That's one of the things that I've learned along the way. And there have been so many messages that I've gotten from people just thanking me for what I'm doing. And I'm not saying that to gloat. I'm saying that because I'm grateful, and because that let me know that I'm not the only one that has gone through challenges. That has let me know that I'm not perfect, and neither are you all. So I pray that we can continue to do life together. And as you have gone through this season with me, I really want you to take in what I've said and what the Father has released me to give to you all. I pray that it's been impactful to your life. And most importantly, this episode, I pray that it will help you and give you the grace to do some soul searching. And I also want you to know that God is concerned about every part of you, things that you can't share with other people, things that have just been between you and God, things that you haven't been able to utter. God is concerned about those things. And today, God wants you to know that He is concerned about your heart. Okay? Thank you all for sitting with me in Lakita's room. I want you, even if you have to make a list of those people and their offenses. Even if you don't get to have a conversation with them, I want you to go through the motions of releasing them. Okay? Acknowledge it, release it, so you can move on. All right? That's it, you all. I appreciate the time that we have spent together this season. I'm going to take a couple of weeks off, and I will see you back strong in season 2 of Lakita's Room. I love you all. Take care.